Imagine this: a picture-perfect family, doting parents, a loving older brother, and then a shadow. A delicate, seemingly innocent shadow that slowly, meticulously consumed every ray of light, leaving me in the dark. I watched it happen twice before, powerless, consumed by a rage that only served to push me further away. My family's affection, my place in their hearts, even the man I was supposed to marry, all snatched away by a cunning master of illusion. Grace Miller. That's her name. And in my first two lives, she was my tormentor, my rival, the girl who always won this constant competition for affection. But this time, it was different. This time, I got to choose my own ending. I was reborn, pulled back from the precipice of my 28th year, back to the day it all began, the day Grace Miller walked into our lives. She was 8 years old, just like me, a distant cousin, orphaned by a tragic accident and burdened with a supposed heart condition. My parents, their hearts overflowing with compassion, welcomed her into our opulent home, declaring her our youngest sister. "Mom, Jane, Ethan, Grace is your new little sister. You must love and cherish her, understand?" My mother's voice, as sweet as a summer breeze, gently nestled Grace into her arms, a scene of perfect domestic bliss. In my past lives, witnessing this moment had fueled a blinding jealousy. My position, my mother's embrace, stolen. I resented Grace with every fiber of my being, lashing out, stirring up trouble, only to be labeled the ungrateful, difficult child. In my second life, I even tried starvation, a desperate plea for attention that backfired spectacularly, solidifying my family's sympathy for Grace and their disdain for me. But this time, watching that familiar scene unfold, something shifted within me. The bitterness was still there, a dull ache, but it was overshadowed by a chilling clarity. Why fight for scraps of affection when the feast was always meant for someone else? My older brother, Ethan Miller, seemed utterly charmed by Grace, his eyes lighting up at the sight of this fragile newcomer. My mother, perhaps sensing my silent resentment, took my hand and Grace's, her voice softening. "Jane, Grace has a weak heart. You're her older sister. You must be gentle and accommodating with her, okay?" Her words, a familiar refrain, pierced my heart. Grace was sick, so I had to yield. It was always like this. In my past lives, from the moment Grace arrived, everything, from toys to my parents' love and my brother's attention, had to be shared. And if I dared to object, the same saccharine words would follow. "Grace has a heart condition, Jane. You're older. You need to understand." No one understood me. I was only a month older than her. I was still a child, too, a child who had known unconditional love for 8 blissful years. How was I supposed to joyfully embrace a girl who had fallen from the sky and claimed a piece of my world? My mother's sweet voice, identical to its past life iteration, echoed in my ears. "Don't worry, Jane. Even with Grace here, our love for you won't lessen." She loved me, I knew that. But in that moment, all I felt was the overwhelming pity she held for Grace, an orphan burdened with illness. My mother genuinely believed she was being fair, blind to the fact that her very words, her constant pleas for my understanding, already betrayed her blatant favoritism. Grace timidly spoke, her voice barely a whisper, as if she feared me. "Sister Jane?" I didn't reply. My mother, noticing my prolonged silence, her tone hardening slightly. She wanted me to be harmonious with Grace, to mirror the perfect sibling bond they envisioned. "No interest," I replied, my voice flat, turning and heading upstairs to my room. In my first 2 lives, I hadn't just opposed Grace's arrival. I'd thrown massive tantrums, argued fiercely with everyone, even gone on a hunger strike in my second life. But all that effort had been futile, only pushing my family further into Grace's sympathetic orbit. A crying child gets candy, but a child who cries constantly gets nothing but resentment. This time, I swore I wouldn't sacrifice my self-respect for their approval. If Grace wanted their affections, so easily shared, so cheap, she could have them. I didn't need love that could be divided like a pie. I locked myself in my room. Except for meals, my nose was buried in books. I was only in elementary school, but my memories from my past lives were crystal clear. In those lives, I had been so consumed with battling Grace that my studies suffered, barely scraping by, and even struggling academically, failing to get into a decent university. Eventually, I had to go abroad for a master's degree just to save face. This time, my goal was a top-tier university. I would start now, at 8 years old. Everything else could betray you, but knowledge would not. My parents knocked on my door a few times, urging me to be less stubborn, to reconcile with Grace. Each time, I politely but firmly sent them away. Then I heard it, Grace's pitiful voice from outside my door. "Daddy, does Jane hate me? Should I just go back to the orphanage?" Her words were designed to tug at heartstrings, and they did. "Oh, Grace, don't say that. Jane has always been a bit spoiled. Her temper isn't the best. Don't mind her," my father cooed. My brother, Ethan, chimed in. "That's right, Grace. Don't overthink it. We all love you." I swung open the door, leaning against the frame, my voice devoid of emotion. "If you want to show affection, please do it far away from my door. It's too loud." Grace choked back a sob, tears welling in her eyes, looking like she was suffering immense hardship. It was an irritating sight, but the men in my family fell for her feigned fragility every time. They immediately shielded her. "Jane, don't bully Grace," Ethan snapped. My father's voice, usually mild, also hardened. "Jane, why can't you be obedient and understanding like your sister?" How touching. If they weren't my own father and brother, I might have shed a tear for their deep family bond. "I'm not bullying her. I simply don't care about her. So please stop appearing in front of me. It's annoying." My words were calm, but my fists were clenched, nails digging into my palms. It was the only way I could maintain my detached facade. "Jane, you're disappointing me," my father sighed. "Grace has a heart condition and you still—" Before he could finish, I slammed the door shut. "Jane, Jane!" Ethan pounded on the door, trying to get me to come out and apologize to Grace. I leaned against the door, steadying my breathing, ignoring the commotion outside. I had done nothing, yet I was always the culprit. Grace only needed to shed a tear, and everyone would pity and forgive her. I did nothing, merely disliked her, and I became the villain. Even having lived through this twice, it still stung. After that, my attitude towards Grace remained unchanged. My parents, seeing that we weren't overtly fighting, stopped intervening. A false peace was still peace, after all. Initially, Grace tried to curry favor with me, but I, a person who had lived 2 lives already, remained entirely indifferent. This life was no different. After a few failed attempts, she understood and shifted her efforts elsewhere. Just like in my past lives, within a month, Grace shed her timid demeanor, laughing and chatting happily with my family. They looked like a perfectly happy family of 4. Time flew by, and soon my birthday arrived. The plan was to go to an amusement park, a rare break from my studies, a chance for some relaxation. We had barely stepped into the park, not even ridden a single ride, when Grace clutched her chest, collapsing into my father's arms with a pained gasp. "Grace, what's wrong? Don't scare me," my father panicked. My mother and brother, who had been walking ahead, turned back, leaving me behind, rushing to Grace's side. "My heart, it hurts," Grace whispered, her voice weak and barely audible, as if on the verge of fading. Without a moment's hesitation, my father called the driver, telling him to come pick us up immediately for the hospital. I had forgotten. In my previous lives, Grace had also ruined my birthday with a sudden heart attack. Over 2 lifetimes, these minor details had slipped my mind. The driver arrived swiftly, in less than 10 minutes. At the exit, my father carried Grace, hurrying away without a backward glance. Ethan followed. My mother lingered, looking at me with a complex expression. "Jane, I'm so sorry, darling. Grace's condition is special. We'll go to the amusement park another time, okay?" Her words were identical to those in my past lives. In my first life, I had cried hysterically, begging my father and brother not to go, only to be scolded. She has Dad and Ethan with her already, I pleaded. Just stay, Mom, and I'll forgive everything you've done in 2 lifetimes. You're my mother, too. Grace needs me, too. My mother hesitated, then added, Next time, your father and I promise we'll take you to the park, all right? I didn't answer. After about 10 seconds, seeing my lack of response, my mother took my hand and led me out of the park. My last hope shattered. I threw the bunny ear headband I had been wearing onto the ground. Amusement park? So boring. I didn't go to the hospital. I hailed a taxi and went home. My parents didn't even notice me leave. No words of caution, just hurried away. I had prepared myself mentally, but when the feeling of abandonment repeated, my heart still ached. Late into the night, no one returned. In my first life, I had sat exactly like that on the living room sofa from morning until late night. Mrs. Davis, our housekeeper, quietly cleaned up and prepared dinner for me. In my previous life, I had flown into a rage, smashing dishes, even hitting Mrs. Davis, scaring away the only person in the house who showed me any kindness. This time, I didn't make things difficult for her. I ate a few bites, then went upstairs. It wasn't until the next day that my family returned. Grace was like a moon surrounded by stars. Upon seeing me, their expressions stiffened as if they had just seen a ghost. Perhaps only then did they realize there was another biological child in the house, one they had abandoned. My father started to explain. Jane, we didn't mean to. It's just that Grace, she's got that heart condition and she needs her parents. I coldly cut him off, finishing his sentence. He froze, then nodded like a robot. Jane, it's good that you understand. We'll make it up to you. Next time, Grace is well, we'll all go to the amusement park. I let out a hollow laugh. This was the best joke I'd heard all day. Why should my birthday depend on Grace's health? Was this my celebration or Grace's stage? They insisted that both children had to be happy for it to be fair, regardless of the circumstances. No need. I don't feel like playing with you anymore, I refused. Jane, don't be angry. Your parents just worry about Grace. It's not that we don't love you. My mother stepped forward, hugging me, gently patting my back as if to soothe me. Sister, don't blame Mom and Dad. They were just too worried about me, that's all. Grace whispered, then coughed twice, her face flushing. Ethan gently patting her back. Grace, it's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. Jane won't be angry with you. That's right, Grace. Everyone knows your health isn't good. It's not your fault, my father added softly. I recoiled from my mother's embrace, ignoring their surprised gazes, and walked to my room alone. No one scolded Grace, the one who caused all the trouble. In fact, everyone excused her in my name, the poor victim. In my previous lives, every one of my birthdays was derailed by Grace feigning a heart attack to steal my parents' attention. Yet, on her birthday, nothing ever went wrong. I saw through her obvious tricks, but no one ever believed me. In my second life, I decided not to celebrate my birthday at all. Each day was a battle between Grace and me. A month later, just like in my previous lives, my parents and brother threw a lavish birthday party for Grace, proudly introducing her to society's elite. My birthday was a fleeting mention, but Grace's was an event known to all. And these parents were still self-congratulatory, believing themselves to be fair. How utterly ridiculous. I sat huddled in a corner, idly poking at a piece of cake on my plate. Grace, resplendent in a princess dress and tiara, stood at the center of the party, a dazzling star. In my second life, I had caused a scene at this very party, leading to Grace's immediate hospitalization. But that only cemented my family's resentment towards me. Why is the esteemed Miss Miller sitting alone here? A familiar male voice spoke. Alex Peterson, my childhood nemesis. I'm not the main character. Why would I crowd the stage? I replied, annoyed. Alex and I were childhood friends, but our interactions always ended in arguments. He had been traveling abroad and only returned recently, just before the new school year. You were never like this before, Alex said, sitting beside me, a surprised look on his face. As I recall, you were never this obedient. You would at least try to ruin that adopted girl's birthday party, right? I didn't want to admit it, but he was right. I had done exactly that before. Ruining Grace's birthday party only earned me the label of arrogant and stubborn, a label I couldn't shake for the rest of that life. What's the point of causing trouble? What would I gain? I sighed wearily. You're really not yourself, Alex said, reaching out to pat my head. Call me bro, and I'll help you get even. I swatted his hand away, glaring at him. No need. I have no interest in fighting with her. Now I'd rather spend my time studying, improving myself, and leaving this house that isn't mine, instead of wasting energy on disputes with Grace. That summer, school started, and Grace was placed in my class. Elementary school knowledge was far too simple for me. I had already self-studied up to the 12th grade curriculum during my summer break. Unlike me, Grace was a genuine elementary school student, and her academic performance wasn't particularly good. After the final exam, it was no surprise that I ranked first in class. Grace, however, only achieved average scores. As soon as we got home, Grace burst into tears, throwing herself into my mother's arms. "Mom, I'm so dumb. Sister Jane got first place. Wah, I'm so stupid, right?" My mother was flustered by Grace's sudden outburst, quickly reassuring her. No, our Grace isn't stupid at all. Just try a little harder, and you'll definitely be as good as Sister Jane." My father, hearing the crying, also came over. "That's right, Grace. Jane only got first place because she studied ahead during the summer break. If you just work hard, you'll also be first." Everyone comforted Grace, while I, the one who actually got first place, was ignored. They feared Grace would have another heart attack, so they poured all their concern onto her, completely oblivious to me. Why wouldn't they? Human affection is finite. One person gains, another loses. And besides, this life, I wasn't the same as before. I didn't bother crying anymore. From the moment I started school, I poured all my time into studying. My presence at home became increasingly rare, and my relationship with my family grew more distant. Thankfully, having lived through 2 lives, I was accustomed to my parents' favoritism. Otherwise, I would have been furious. At the New Year's party, I met my fiancé, Marcus Anderson. He was sitting right next to Grace. "Hey, aren't you going to manage your fiancé? His eyes are glued to your sister," Alex whispered into my ear, sitting beside me. Our family, the Millers, the Andersons, and the Petersons, had business ties. Our children were roughly the same age, so we often had meals together. It had been the same in past lives. Ever since Grace appeared, Marcus had paid no attention to me. I had no feelings for him myself, but I used to think he was my fiancé, so he couldn't be taken by someone as detestable as Grace. This time, I thought differently. If Grace liked Marcus, she could have him. Seeing my silence, Alex nudged me gently, pulling me out of my thoughts of past lives. "If they like each other, all I can do is respect it and wish them well," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "You don't like Marcus?" Alex asked. I couldn't help but chuckle. Who could like someone as brainless as him? "What about your engagement?" Alex pressed on. "That was arranged by our families. It's not about what I like." Alex stopped asking, but a clear flicker of amusement danced in his eyes. Throughout the entire party, apart from Alex and his parents, everyone else spoon-fed Grace, while I was utterly ignored. At the start of the new school year, to avoid seeing that manipulative little darling, I skipped 3 grades. Coincidentally, I landed in Alex's class and even shared a desk with him. "Oh, so you actually know how to study?" Alex looked at me as if I were a ghost, and I had to sympathize. In my 2 previous lives, I hated books since childhood, preferring to bother Grace, and my grades were always at the bottom. How could I have ever skipped 3 grades to be in his class? "I don't want to see someone I dislike, and it's quieter here," I replied, lazily. Alex immediately knew who I was talking about. He said seriously, "It's okay. Your parents might not like you, but I do." He seemed to have blurted out something he didn't mean to, his face flushing slightly as he quickly corrected himself. "Not like that, like a brother, you know." It was the first time I had seen Alex look so adorable. I smiled faintly. "Thank you." My skipping grades seemed to be a huge shock to Grace. She also started staying up late to study, trying to catch up to me, almost making herself sick. My parents dotingly comforted her. Grace, your health is more important. Grades don't matter, as long as you're happy. My brother Ethan, who was away at boarding school, rushed home with gifts for Grace, but not for me. The next year, for my birthday, the plan was again an amusement park. But Grace's health didn't allow for such strenuous fun, so the family decided to go to an aquarium instead. I had no interest, trailing behind them. Grace, meanwhile, was in heaven. My parents and brother surrounded her, patiently explaining every exhibit. They didn't even notice when I walked away. Jane. Outside the aquarium, I bumped into Alex. What are you doing here? Given Alex's personality, there was no way he'd be at a place like an aquarium. I called your house. Mrs. Davis said your family went to the aquarium. I figured you wouldn't like places like this, so I came to see if you'd sneak away, Alex said, a smug grin on his face. Even Alex knew I didn't like such places, yet my parents and brother didn't care. Perhaps they knew all too well. They simply didn't care. It's your birthday today. Don't stand around tolerating that fake innocent act. Come on, I'll take you to the amusement park. Alex took my hand and pulled me along. It wasn't until noon that my phone rang. Jane, where are you? My mother's worried voice rang out. Jane, you're so rude, just leaving like that. Do you know how worried we were? My father's scolding voice followed. Sister, where did you go? Did you not want to play with us, so you left? Jane, when will you be as obedient as little Grace? Hearing the barrage of accusations, Alex's eyebrows furrowed. He snatched the phone from me. I'm the one who took Jane. Hearing Alex's voice, the scolding stopped. Oh, Alex, if you took Jane, you should have told me. Today is Jane's birthday, and the whole family was celebrating with her. When we turned around, she was gone. I was so worried. My mother's voice softened. I took her out this morning, and you only just noticed now? That's really worrying, Alex said, full of hidden meaning. The other end of the line fell silent. Sorry, sister. It's because I cling to Mom and Dad too much. Come back and play with Mom, Dad, and brother. The aquarium is so much fun. Grace's familiar apology came out the moment she spoke. Grace, it's not your fault, Ethan interrupted Grace's apology. No need. I'm not interested in the aquarium. You all have fun, I said indifferently, then gestured for Alex to hang up. That entire afternoon, I was with Alex. Even though I had lived twice to the age of 28, I had never been to an amusement park since Grace entered our lives, so I found myself truly enjoying it. Alex and I played until late evening. Before parting ways, I hugged him tightly. Thank you, Alex. I genuinely had fun today. This is the first time in all 3 of my lives that I felt this happy. Alex blushed, awkwardly replying, It's nothing, as long as you're happy. When I returned home, my whole family was waiting for me in the living room. Jane, my mother stepped forward, about to say something, but then stopped. In that 30-second silence, I didn't know if she wanted to scold me for leaving or ask if I had fun with Alex. I'm tired. We can talk tomorrow. I broke the silence. Ignoring their disappointed looks, I went straight upstairs. If I had stayed in the living room, I would have been compared to Grace, chastised for not being obedient or understanding. Why bother staying, only to ruin my mood? Time continued to pass. I graduated from elementary and middle school at the top of my class, then entered a prestigious high school with Alex. Since starting middle school, I rarely went home. My family had grown accustomed to Grace's obedient and charming presence. High school was an elite institution, but Alex and I both chose to live in the dorms. I didn't want to go home, and Alex wanted to be close to me. Having Alex by my side for so many years, I was well aware of his feelings for me. I accepted his companionship, but I couldn't go further with him. I was still engaged. Before everything between Marcus and Grace was exposed, I didn't want to cause trouble for Alex or myself. With Alex by my side, and without that annoying Grace constantly in my sight, my high school years were the happiest of my 3 lives. During summer break, I packed my suitcase and went home alone. Alex had initially planned to take me, but his family was traveling abroad, so he had to leave a few days early. When I arrived home, the kitchen and dining room were spotless, without a single scent of food. I frowned and called Mrs. Davis. "Oh, Miss Jane, the family, the young lady, they went shopping today and told me not to prepare a meal. No one even bothered to tell me you were coming back." Mrs. Davis's voice on the other end of the line was filled with concern. I hadn't told my parents about my break. As a result, they had no idea I would be home for the summer. "It's okay, Mrs. Davis. Don't worry. I'll take care of myself," I said, then hung up. It was a good thing I had lived 2 lives already. If I were my past self, my heart would have been utterly shattered. This house was once mine, yet I had become invisible. Still, it was better than my previous lives. In those lives, simply because I hadn't treated Grace well, my family had turned their backs on me from the moment I was in middle school. In their eyes, I was nothing but a spoiled, worthless child. That evening, I sat composed on the sofa, watching my family return joyfully from a shopping trip. My face remained expressionless. Schools had different break schedules. My brother, Ethan, was a year ahead of me, so his break had started earlier. That's why he was part of the shopping expedition today. Seeing me, my mother seemed startled, her voice tinged with awkwardness. "Jane, why are you home today?" She looked like a cat caught red-handed. "My summer break has started," I replied coldly. "Have you eaten dinner?" My mother's face remained uncomfortable. It seemed she no longer knew how to treat me. "What did everyone buy today?" I didn't answer my mother's question, instead asking one of my own. My mother's expression grew more bewildered, and she quickly glanced at my father, seeking help. I had guessed about 80 to 90% of it already, but I couldn't stop myself from wanting to see their reaction. My parents looked at each other, the atmosphere thick with awkwardness. "For years, you haven't regarded this family as anything, and you're not understanding why, Grace. You didn't even bother to tell us your summer break started. Don't blame Mom and Dad for not paying attention to you." My brother, Ethan, was the first to break the silence. My parents looked terrified, their faces etched with panic. They had always prided themselves on being fair, on having no favoritism, yet Ethan's words were a slap in their face. "Jane," my mother started, seemingly wanting to explain. "Sister, it's because I wanted to go shopping. Don't blame Mom and Dad. If you want to blame anyone, blame me." Grace quickly stepped forward, shielding my mother as if protecting her. What a touching display of mother-daughter affection. If the woman in the middle hadn't been my biological mother, I might have applauded the performance. My mother looked at Grace, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction, seemingly touched by Grace's understanding. "It's all my fault for being so playful that Mom and Dad forgot today was your summer break. If you're angry, be angry with me. Scold me or hit me, but don't blame Mom and Dad." Grace grew more agitated as she spoke, finally clutching her chest with a pained expression. My parents panicked, immediately surrounding her to check on her. "Jane, why do you always have to target Grace?" Ethan yelled, his voice booming. He seemed to have forgotten that he once promised to always support me. "Where do you see me bullying her?" I glanced at him, my heart devoid of joy, and replied. Ethan gaped, but no words came out. From beginning to end, I had only used the calmest tone to ask a simple question, yet he concluded I was bullying Grace. How laughable. "Anyway, you haven't treated Grace well," Ethan stammered, lacking any real logic. I stepped towards him. Ethan was 4 years older than me, a head taller. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. I put all my strength into that slap, making Ethan's head snap away, his face showing clear disbelief. My parents seemed equally stunned by the scene, their eyes shifting from Grace to us. "This," I said, letting my hand drop, a tingling sensation spreading through it from the force I'd used, "is what you call bullying." Ethan slowly raised his hand to cover his face, his eyes wide, as if he wanted to devour me whole. "Jane, why did you hit Ethan? He's your brother. Apologize to your brother immediately." My father roared, enraged. "He falsely accused me first. Why shouldn't he apologize?" I smiled, asking back. When I just returned, before I could even say a few words, only wanting to ask where everyone had gone today, he accused me of so many things. Who exactly is the one in the wrong here? My father frowned, seemingly unable to find words to refute me. "Anyway, he's your brother. You're his sister. You shouldn't act like that. You should learn from Grace. Be more obedient and understanding." "Stop it. I don't want to hear you flatter Grace anymore." My parents' faces showed clear exasperation, as if they were annoyed that their own flesh and blood couldn't compare to their adopted daughter. "Sister, don't blame brother," Grace, seemingly recovered, softly spoke, apologizing to me. Those familiar words made me nauseous. If not for the smugness clear in her eyes, I almost would have believed she genuinely meant to apologize for Ethan. "Grace, don't mind her. She's just crazy." Ethan looked at me with disdain, as if I were nothing but trash. He had forgotten that there was a time when I was the sister he loved most. "Jane, listen to your mother. Apologize to your brother. After all, you two are siblings." My mother stepped forward, trying to mediate. "I'm not his biological sister. Grace is the one who is," I said coldly, avoiding my mother's hand as she tried to pull me closer. "Jane," my father's voice rang out full of severity. Ignoring everyone in the living room, I turned and walked to my room. Just 3 more years. Once I got into college, I could finally cut ties and leave this house that belonged to Grace. A few days later, my birthday arrived again. Initially, the family had planned a trip for all of us, but I refused. Grace quickly offered to make me a cake. In my previous life, on my birthday, Grace had also made me a cake, adding mangoes. Unfortunately, I'm severely allergic to mangoes. This time, I saw mango peels in the kitchen trash can. A faint smile, full of hidden meaning, curled at the corner of my mouth. After all these years, her methods were still so crude. But this time was different. I was in high school and had a very important competition coming up, one I had been preparing for a long time. I couldn't risk anything happening to me. Just like in the first life, Grace carried the cake she made, happily stepping in front of everyone. "Happy birthday, sister." Grace smiled brightly, instantly disarming everyone in the room. Except me. "Grace, this is delicious," my father said, his face full of happiness. Grace cut me the largest slice of cake. "Sister, I made this just for you. You have to eat it all." I looked at the slice on the plate. It definitely contained enough mango to harm me. "That's right, Jane. Grace put so much effort into making this cake. You must try it," my mother added. It seemed my mother thought this event could improve our relationship. "Mom," I put the cake down, looking directly at the woman in front of me. "Jane, what trick are you trying to pull now?" Seeing that I wasn't eating the cake Grace had put so much effort into, Ethan yelled as if I had ruined his beloved sister's good intentions. "What's wrong, Jane?" my mother asked, perplexed. I looked at the mango chunks visible in the cake and asked the question I had held in my heart for so long. "Do you still remember that I'm allergic to mangoes?" My mother's face instantly flushed red. "Jane," she opened her mouth, trying to find an excuse, but then realized there was nothing to explain. Even Ethan, who always argued with me, fell silent. When I was 3 years old, I had eaten half a mango and was bedridden for 3 days. The doctor even said I almost didn't make it. Everyone in the family knew I had a severe mango allergy. But then, everyone just conveniently forgot. Their hearts and minds were entirely focused on Grace. They only cared if I would yield to make her happy. What I ate, how my stomach felt, no one bothered to care. "I'm so sorry, sister. I didn't know you were allergic to mangoes. I'm so sorry," Grace blurted out, tears streaming down her cheeks. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain, a pitiful sight. Immediately, the whole family turned to comfort Grace. "It's okay, Grace. You didn't know. Jane won't blame you." "That's right, Grace. Jane hasn't even touched it yet. Don't worry. Jane, come and comfort your sister now." Clearly, I was the one suffering, yet everyone only cared about the feelings of the one who made the mistake. I was simply exhausted. Using studying for my exams as an excuse, I left the stifling Miller house, found a quiet study room, and buried myself in books for the entire afternoon. That evening, I received a call from Alex. "Happy birthday, Jane." Alex's voice was hoarse. He must have just waken up. He was in New York, a 12-hour time difference away. "Thank you." It was just a simple wish, yet my nose stung and my vision blurred. It seemed no one else in the world truly cared about my birthday except Alex. "What's wrong? Did the Millers bully you again?" Alex's voice sounded anxious. "Nothing. It's just hearing your voice makes me miss you so much." The other end of the line was silent for a moment. I rarely expressed such words. Alex must have been embarrassed. When you say that, I want to book a flight back home immediately. I laughed at Alex's words, my voice brightening. If I could, I'd fly to America right now. Who's calling Jane? Alex's mother's voice rang out on the other end. Happy birthday, dear Jane. Alex's mother snatched the phone from him. I knew it. Why else would my son call someone as soon as he woke up? Turns out it was for Jane. Alex's mother's voice was teasing. I could almost picture her mischievous face on the other end of the line. After chatting with Alex's family for about 15 minutes, my mood significantly improved. Alex's family were like warm rays of sunshine. The college entrance exams ended. I excelled, ranking first in the province, and Alex was right behind me. Naturally, we were classmates again at university. As for Grace, because she neglected her studies, she fell far behind, only managing to get into a private art school. In college, I used it as an excuse to move out of the Miller mansion, finding an apartment near campus. All the allowance the Millers had given me over the years, I had saved. Thanks to memories from my past lives, I had quietly bought a few companies with future potential. Alex, along with a few friends, also pooled capital to start a company. When I turned 18, my family insisted I returned home for a coming-of-age ceremony. I didn't want to go because I knew Grace would surely feign a heart attack and ruin my ceremony. Her heart seemed to have a timer, always acting up at important events. But now it was different. I no longer needed to rely on the Millers. As expected, on the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, Grace had her usual heart attack. My parents and brother once again abandoned me, rushing Grace to the hospital. I no longer lost control with anger as I had in my previous lives. I faced the guests alone, completely composed. The Miss Miller everyone gossiped about was now being praised, especially by the Anderson family. Marcus's mother, Mrs. Anderson, took my hand beaming. Truly, our Jane, you've grown so capable in just a few years. Her eyes were filled with satisfaction and joy. Little did she know that the daughter-in-law she had chosen all these years had actually been replaced. While I was absent, Marcus and Grace had secretly gotten together. I gently pulled my hand from hers. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. My aloofness didn't bother Mrs. Anderson. She began looking around for her son, but couldn't find him. If you're looking for Marcus, you might find him in Grace's hospital room. Mrs. Anderson's face showed clear surprise. She couldn't understand why her son would be in his fiancé's adopted sister's hospital room on her fiancé's coming-of-age ceremony. Congratulations, Jane! Alex's mother pulled him over to congratulate me. Oh my, our Jane gets more beautiful and talented every day. My boy here is really lucky. Alex's mother playfully patted his back. Hearing that, Mrs. Anderson's face darkened, showing clear displeasure. Mrs. Peterson, what do you mean? Jane is my son's fiancée. They have an engagement. Alex's mother looked incredulously. No way! Don't you know your son has been captivated by that scheming little opportunist, Grace Miller? Hearing this, Mrs. Anderson's expression visibly changed. She knew who Grace was, just the Miller's adopted daughter, a true master of manipulation. What could she do besides cry? How could she compare to the legitimate Miss Miller? In my previous 2 lives, she hadn't particularly liked Grace, but she hadn't been fond of me either. So when her son's fiancé unexpectedly changed, she hadn't shown much reaction. However, this time, Mrs. Anderson was distraught. She quickly called the Millers and rushed to the hospital. Alex and I also hailed another car and followed. I had waited for this moment for so long, across 2 lifetimes. Such a good show. How could I miss it? At the hospital, Grace lay in bed, her face pale, surrounded by a worried crowd. Mom, Dad, you worried yourselves. I'm so sorry. Grace nestled into Marcus's arms, her face pitiful, looking even more pathetic. Don't say that, Grace. We're family. My mother held Grace's hand, gently comforting her. 2 years prior, the Millers had discovered Grace and Marcus's secret relationship, but they chose to help her keep it hidden. Marcus! Mrs. Anderson's voice boomed through the hospital room. The two, who had been cuddling, immediately separated, their faces filled with panic. Mrs. Anderson strode to the bedside, pulling Marcus to his feet and roaring, "Do you know what you're doing? You have a fiancé!" At this point, Mrs. Anderson had completely lost her dignified composure, acting like an enraged woman. "Mom, I don't like Jane. The one I truly love is Grace," Marcus retorted stubbornly. Mrs. Anderson was so furious she couldn't speak. "Auntie," Grace, from the hospital bed, tried to sit up. "Marcus and I truly love each other. We hope you can make our union happen." Seeing Grace's pale face in the hospital bed, Mrs. Anderson grew even more furious. Grace looked like a gravely ill, dying person. Marrying someone like that would only bring trouble upon her family. "Never! Marcus's fiancée is Jane. This has been decided for ages." "I don't want to. There's absolutely no way I'm marrying Jane," Marcus yelled furiously, seeing me at the hospital room. He advanced towards me as if to devour me. "Jane, listen carefully. Whatever tricks you pull are useless. I don't love you. I won't marry you." I smiled faintly. 3 lifetimes combined had been a joke, and now it was even more farcical. My mother also spoke up, trying to mediate with clear favoritism. Come now. These 2 children have feelings for each other. Why shouldn't we nurture their love? It's just a marriage between the Miller and Anderson families anyway." "Mom, if you already knew everything, why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked with a smile. My mother looked flustered, her eyes darting nervously. In my past 2 lives, she had known about Grace and Marcus's secret relationship early on, but never informed me. She just let things unfold naturally until I accidentally discovered them. Only then would she appear, persuading me to give up my fiancé for Grace. In my previous life, of course, I would never accept. Even though I had no feelings for Marcus, I wouldn't allow Grace to steal what was mine. As a result, the whole affair caused a huge scandal. This time, my mother still wanted me to give up my fiancé for Grace. After all, Grace was her precious treasure, and I, Jane, was nothing. "We only just found out recently. We were afraid you couldn't accept it, so we didn't know how to tell you. Anyway, now you know. Marcus doesn't love you, and you have no feelings for Marcus. So why don't you just let your sister have him?" Ethan, seeing our mother's silence, spoke up on behalf of his sister, seizing the opportunity. His words were utterly illogical, full of holes. If I genuinely cared about Marcus, I would have been furious at Ethan's words. But luckily, in this life, my goal aligned with theirs. If that's the case, I agree to break off the engagement with Marcus. I feigned generosity, agreeing to Ethan's words. My parents smiled contentedly, their eyes seeming to say that their daughter had finally grown up and was sensible. Ethan looked triumphant, stepping towards Grace's bed as if to flaunt his victory. "Jane, you've sacrificed. We'll make it up to you," my father said, gently patting my shoulder to comfort me. They were always like this, wanting Grace to be happy, ignoring me, and then just vaguely saying they would make it up to me. "Thank you, sister." Grace smiled at me, her smile devoid of gratitude, filled only with smugness, as if to say, "Look, everything you had is now mine." "Thank you, Jane," Marcus said to me, his tone a little awkward. "It's nothing. I'm the one who should thank you for being so easily charmed by Grace, helping me escape this mess." Mrs. Anderson, though unhappy, saw that everyone else agreed. She knew it was useless to object and grudgingly accepted. She maintained her disgruntled expression as she pulled Marcus away. As they left, the couple exchanged another flirtatious glance, as if to show off to the world. "Grace Miller, you're in for a world of trouble. Mrs. Anderson is known as the most difficult person in society. Someone like you, used to living in luxury, won't be able to handle her." Now that Jane and Marcus have broken off their engagement, how about we get engaged right away? Alex, I don't know when, had moved closer to me. The Miller family couldn't hide their surprise, looking at me, clearly astonished that I had found a better fiancé than Marcus so quickly. "No wonder you agreed to break off the engagement so fast. So you've already found someone better," Ethan sneered. "Sister, you're truly blessed to find such a good fiancé like Alex," Grace interjected, her voice dripping with false sweetness, her eyes barely concealing her jealousy. Now you don't have to pretend anymore, or has her acting skill deteriorated? Of course, you can only pick up the things I don't need, I replied without a hint of politeness. Grace seemed hurt by this, tears beginning to fall again. Wah, I'm sorry, sister. I shouldn't have stolen your fiancé. It's natural for you to scold me, but you can't blame Marcus. He's a good person. If Marcus had been there, he would surely have cried upon hearing these words. Don't overestimate yourself. What are you fighting me for? I don't need anything. Just stick to your role and don't bother with anything else. Seeing me scold their princess, my parents couldn't sit still. Jane, how can you talk to Grace like that? That's so uneducated. My father roared, enraged. I rolled my eyes disdainfully. My education is only for those who know how to respect. You, Mom and Dad, don't deserve it. Jane, are you talking to your father like that? Apologize to him immediately. My mother glared at me, commanding. Jane, you make me truly disappointed. I never thought I'd have a sister as ill-mannered as you. If only Grace were my biological sister, how wonderful that would be, Ethan said with a pained expression. Alex was about to speak in my defense, but I stopped him. I had waited for this day for too long. If I didn't say it myself, I would feel suffocated. Understanding, Alex stepped back, leaving the battlefield to me.
If you keep saying you'll make it up to me, then let's end our parent-child relationship. From now on, you can pretend you don't have a daughter. That would be the best way to make it up to me. I took out the agreement I had prepared long ago from my bag. Even before returning home for the coming-of-age ceremony, I had meticulously planned this. Even if this incident hadn't occurred, I would have presented this agreement. "What are you saying, Jane?" My mother shrieked, her voice high-pitched, completely losing her usual elegance. "I said I want to end my relationship with you, my parents," I replied coldly. Why hadn't I realized before that these people seemed to understand nothing I said? How ridiculous. What an unfilial child! We worked so hard to raise you for 18 years, and this is the ungrateful person you turn out to be? Your parents cared for you for 18 years. Is this how you repay us? My father clutched his chest, his face pale. I laughed at their sarcastic words. Worked hard? Loved me? What kind of love is that? Giving me an adopted sister, forcing me to yield to her at all times, in all places? Is that what you call love? From the moment she arrived, everyone only cared about her. Not one of my birthdays was truly happy. Sometimes she had a heart attack, sometimes I had to cater to her whims. Even if I needed help, I couldn't be with you. Others were with her. Why did you always have to go together? Every year I topped my class, but never received any attention from you. It was always about comforting her. Just to take her out, you even forgot my school break. When I returned home alone, there wasn't even a hot meal, and no one was home. To make her happy, you almost forced me to eat mangoes to death. My coming-of-age ceremony, a once-in-a-lifetime event, you left me alone to face the mocking guests while you only cared about her. She stole my fiancé. Not only did you not scold her, you even helped her hide it. Then, when it was exposed, you advised me to give my fiancé to her. What kind of love is this? As long as she cries and clutches her chest once, everyone is so heartbroken they act like they're dying. Time and again, you made me suffer to please her. Is that loving me? Just because I don't complain, don't get angry, do you think I have no feelings?
My shouting made my mother's face turn ashen. No, that's not it. No. But beyond those repetitive words, she couldn't say anything to defend herself. Every single thing I had just recounted, nothing added, nothing omitted, was the absolute truth that had happened. She couldn't deny it. Everyone only blames me for not having a good personality, for not being obedient or understanding like Grace. But wasn't my personality shaped by your very own upbringing? Before Grace came along, how much you loved me. But ever since she appeared, everything I did became wrong. If you love someone, you spoil them, indulge them, let them be bad. Everything is good, even naughty behavior is adorable. But when that love runs out, everything is wrong. A bad temper, all sorts of flaws, even breathing becomes wrong. Do you treat me like a cat or a dog? Jane, that's not true. We do love you. You're our biological daughter. How could we not love you? I'm not saying you don't love me. It's just that love existed before Grace. But your love is too cheap, easily shared with others, leaving nothing for me. I clearly did nothing wrong. I just didn't like Grace. You yourselves reduced your love for me, which is why everything I did seemed wrong. You even pride yourselves on being fair, but a human heart is inherently biased. How can hands be equal? Where is the fairness? My mother's eyes were filled with tears. I carried you for 10 months and gave birth to you, Jane. You can't leave me. I was wrong before. I swear from now on, I won't show favoritism. I scoffed. Too late. If I had a choice, I would absolutely not want to be born into this family. So please let me be free. Hearing my words, my parents' eyes looked hollow, losing all their former radiance. Ethan also turned pale, losing his usual arrogance. Grace cowered under her blanket, frightened as if wanting to escape it all. Indeed, she was the one who understood the situation best here. I took out my phone and transferred money to my mother's account. This is all the money you've spent on me, all these years. I'm returning it. From now on, we go our separate ways. I wish you both happiness. With that, I took Alex's hand and walked away. Ignoring the Millers' pleas, I didn't look back. My 2 previous lives had been tragedies because I had valued their cheap, fragile love too much. In this life, abandoning everything, I would live better, shine brighter. When will you finally agree to be my girlfriend? Alex whispered in my ear. He had asked this question before, and I had told him that I was still engaged to Marcus. Even without feelings, I couldn't do anything unethical. I raised Alex's face and my lips met his. Alex froze for a moment, surprised, but then he held me tighter. His kiss was passionate, taking the lead. When the kiss ended, Alex held me close. He had waited for me for 10 years, unlike my parents. Throughout those 10 years, he had never changed. Grace and Marcus's wedding was a grand affair. Even though the 2 families had a bit of a rift, they still had to maintain appearances. The only imperfection was perhaps Mrs. Anderson, who considered Grace not a biological Miller and too frail, so the ceremony was slightly scaled back. Alex asked me if I was being too easy on Grace. I shook my head. You think I'm too kind? The one who stole everything from me? How could I let her live in peace? I hired a girl to play Marcus's ex-girlfriend at the engagement party. She falsely claimed to be pregnant with his child, causing a huge scandal. Their wedding turned into a laughingstock for the entire elite society. Grace was so furious she had to be hospitalized. How laughable. And you know, a seed of doubt, once planted in someone's heart, will sprout and grow in no time. This was just the beginning. Grace, prepare to receive my gifts. The Millers, wanting to atone for their mistakes, transferred all their family assets into my name, leaving Grace with only a small symbolic share. Initially, I didn't even want to accept it, as I had plenty of companies in my hands. The money I had earned over the years far exceeded what the Millers combined owned. I didn't crave their loose change. But to utterly crush Grace, I accepted everything and then isolated all of the Anderson family's businesses. Since Marcus inherited the family business, their revenue plummeted, driving him to exhaustion. His feelings for Grace also faded. Grace, seeing her husband coming home late, began to suspect him. With just a tiny rumor, she would spin wild scenarios, making Marcus increasingly disgusted. His mother, Mrs. Anderson, also disliked her. From the moment Grace entered their home, the Anderson family's business had gone downhill. Coupled with Grace's inability to bear children, Mrs. Anderson openly showed her disapproval. Hearing news of Grace's misfortunes became one of my refined pleasures throughout those years. Alex's company continued to prosper. We both grew busier, and the time we spent together became less frequent. One day, my people informed me that Grace was on her last legs. Weak health, unable to bear children, abandoned by her mother-in-law, constantly consumed by suspicion and jealousy and disliked by her husband. Finally, they divorced, and Grace left with nothing. The shares she once held had been transferred away by Marcus and his mother, so after the divorce, Grace fell into absolute poverty. After everything was over, I transferred the companies back to my Miller parents. After all, I had declared our relationship severed. I couldn't accept anything from strangers. Besides, I had no intention of contacting them again. I went to the hospital. Grace lay in her hospital bed, her face emaciated and gaunt. Before, her hospital bed was always surrounded by visitors, but today it was eerily lonely. "You came to gloat, didn't you, sister?" Grace mocked herself. "I spent my whole life fighting you, and in the end, I have nothing." "The things you fought for were never truly yours," I replied coldly. "You lived a life of luxury. What's wrong with suffering a little at the end?" Grace looked at me, her eyes devoid of the cunning spark they once held, replaced only by sorrow. "That New Year's party, I saw you in that pink princess dress, surrounded by the whole family, a true princess. How much I envied you then, because you received everyone's love, unlike me. I was born with a heart condition, and my own family loved my brother even more. But then, they all died." Grace paused, then continued. "Unlike your family, my family only loved my brother. It's a good thing they all died, so I had a chance to come to your home. I wanted to steal your father, your mother, and your brother. I wanted them all to be mine." Perhaps due to excitement, Grace coughed violently. I sat beside her, watching her waste her last breaths. But in the end, I still lost. Grace closed her eyes, 2 cloudy tears rolling down her cheeks. "Those things, I don't need them anymore either." I watched the heartbeat on the monitor slow down, then gradually stop. While you didn't realize it, you actually won. You even won twice. It's just that this time, the things you fought for, I no longer needed. I looked at Grace's emaciated face and called the doctor. As I walked out of the hospital, I received a call from Alex. He told me to come to his place. I opened the door. The entire house was filled with roses, their fragrance intoxicating. My love, holding a bouquet of deep red roses in one hand and a ring box, knelt down on one knee. "Jane, will you marry me?" I looked at him, a smile spreading across my face. How could I possibly say no?